Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for attending. Tonight, we will hear from Noel Atzmiller on a talk titled Artificial Intelligence, a Tool for Technical Writers. In this presentation, we're going to learn how AI can revolutionize your technical writing skills at the event. So, Noel, whenever you're ready.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Noel Atzmiller. I'm going to regale you with a presentation this evening. I recently attended several online training sessions in artificial intelligence. And in my presentation, I intend to share some of the information that I learned about AI, as it's known, and its role as a tool for technical writers. Now, my presentation is intended to be an introduction or an overview. We're not going to get deep into the weeds, but we will have information that will benefit everyone as we go along. My topics for this evening are, I'll provide a definition of artificial intelligence and give some basic components, what they are and what their definitions are. Data is crucial for AI, so I will mention a few things about that also. Many companies and individuals are currently using several AI tools. I'll mention a few of those. And I'll also talk about some challenges that AI poses for the technical writer. My presentation this evening focuses entirely on ChatGPT. I'm going to do this to keep the information reasonable and contained. And I'll discuss some of ChatGPT's capabilities and some potential uses that you can use it for as technical writers. I'll also provide an explanation of what prompts are, and in generative AI in particular, and provide some examples of how you can use prompts. Lastly, I'll discuss how some items will change in the era of AI and provide some suggestions for you as a technical writer that'll help you incorporate yourself into this new realm. Let's start off with a basic idea of what is artificial intelligence, or AI. In one of the classes I participated in, the instructor gave this definition. Well, that's fine. I've seen many, many more. However, the most important thing is to remember the goal of AI, and that is it wants to simulate human intelligence and communication. So let's take a moment to see if we can understand AI a little better by looking at its main components and what they are. The first main component that I'd like to talk about this evening is what's called machine learning. And as the text on the right indicates, we're talking about computers learning, predicting, deciding things. Algorithms are sophisticated software that it works on and recognizes patterns and detects information in data it has. Another major component of AI, neural networks. And once again, as you see on the right, we're talking about algorithms, software, that are trying to mimic the human brain. It uses interconnected layers and attempts to process information and respond based on feedback. Another component of AI, large language models, LLMs. ChatGPT is an LLM. Now, these are designed, as you see there, to try and understand and create human-like text, perform tasks. And these LLMs are trained on large data sets. A little more on that later. The fourth item is generative AI. Here is where you interact with the tool, the AI tool, by using chat prompts to access the information, request information, get everything from text, that type of thing. We're going to focus exclusively on text this evening, but other AI tools and even ChatGPT, the more expensive version, will give you images and audio and some types of code. In my agenda, I mentioned that data is very important. People input data into an LLM. So there are individuals inputting data into ChatGPT, for example, and any company that owns a particular LLM also trains the LLM by instructing people to load data, which is tagged in various ways. And so the tool can use the information. Now, this information can be anything the owner of the tool wants, such as things plucked off the internet, whether hopefully good rather than good and bad. Not just books and articles, patents, technical papers, information from scholarly journals, anything that could possibly be tagged and placed into the AI that the owners of the AI want. Sensor data could be anything from weather-related data, oil and gas formation data, mathematical tables, whatever is needed, the owner of the AI wants. And of course, there's many more sources. And here's one source that you might not be aware of. Whenever you interact with an AI, the information that you input, your responses, and the responses by the AI are input as data to the AI, to the LLM. So that would behoove you then to make sure that you do not put any proprietary information in your dialogue with the LLM or confidential information, because it can store it and possibly use it in the future. I mentioned in my agenda that there are companies and individuals using many AI tools, and here's just a sampling of a few. And you can everything, it's amazing, from news reports, earning reports, marketing messages. Grammarly is used by individuals as well as corporations for grammar suggestions. AcroLinks, I've discovered, is a content management tool running on AI. And if you want some high quality translations, DeepL is one AI tool that you might want to select. And there's no shortage of these tools available, and they're increasing in use all the time. As beneficial as AI sounds, there are some challenges to it that some people are not aware of. And I want to relay some of these to you right now. AI cannot fully replicate human nuances and subtleties in communication. It just cannot do it. Consequently, on occasion, the responses you get from a AI tool such as ChatGPT might be impersonal or insensitive. If the AI tool cannot find the information it needs for its response to you, it might give you incorrect content, misleading content, or just flat lie. Fill in the information. If the information on which the tool is working is biased in any way, then the possibility is great that the responses from that chat tool will also be biased. A little more on that later. And as I mentioned, it reuses session content from what you enter, from what it responds, et cetera, et cetera. So these are all items that can be input or challenges to AI. Now, what does this mean for you as a technical writer? Well, it basically means, as a tech writer, when you're using AI for your company or your business, you must be aware of these realities and check the information. Do not presume that the information is always 100% correct or accurate. You must check it, and that's up to you as a tech writer to do that. There are several popular LLMs on the market. Here are three. And as I mentioned, I'm going to exclusively focus tonight on ChatGPT, and specifically ChatGPT 4. It is still free. It's limited in some aspects, but it does not produce images, but it's sufficient for our discussion tonight to get a flavor of what ChatGPT can do. Incidentally, if you ever wondered what GPT stands for, there's the explanation of the acronym at the bottom. Now, ChatGPT has some very interesting capabilities. For example, it responds to written requests called prompts. I'll provide more information a little bit later, but you create a dialogue with ChatGPT online. It has the capability of taking technical information and, upon request by you, can summarize the technical information in many ways. No problem, does it very quickly. If the information that you're working on is not quite the format you want, you can ask ChatGPT to reformat it or reorganize it, such as going from a text to tables. You'll see an example of that this evening. And if you're stuck, you got writer's block or staring at your screen, or you need some ideas, ChatGPT is an excellent tool for generating these ideas and giving you a new perspective on your task, your tools you're working on. Now, as a tech writer, here are some ideas of how you might use ChatGPT in technical writing. It's very good at handling what are called repetitious or time-consuming or boring tasks. You can be delegated to do certain things such as that, freeing you from that laborious tasks. If you want, it can also provide suggestions, grammar, style, punctuation, that type of thing, ideas for sentence structure, ideas for tone, and that type of thing. If you're not sure about certain times for your project, you can instruct ChatGPT to give you some ideas about project timelines, some options you might have, times that it will take for certain tasks to be performed. And of course, you can take a document and give it to ChatGPT and say, proofread this as you instruct it using your prompts. One other capability that I thought was very interesting, brainstorming. As I mentioned before, if you happen to be stuck, you got writer's block, or better yet, if you want some unusual names or product names, or you want document headings that are different, or you can instruct it to say, I want some document headings that are much more to the point, or document headings that are much easier to read. Give it some context, and the ChatGPT will respond accordingly. As I mentioned, ChatGPT and other LLMs run on prompts. And this is called generative AI, where you are using prompts to generate a response from the tool. Now, what's the definition of a prompt? Well, here's one. Plain language, typed on your laptop or your computer, right through the LLM itself. Here's a typical example. If this individual had submitted this to ChatGPT, it would have responded with several marketing ideas. Now, what I'd like to do is remind everybody that it's not just a matter of a simple prompt. Your prompts can be quite complex, and the idea of manipulating your prompts is called prompt engineering. Here's a definition I obtained. What you're doing is taking your prompt and customizing it, designing it, refining it, changing it, because you can instruct ChatGPT and other LLMs to extract specific responses, the information you want. Now let's take a look at some of the prompts that you might use, the capabilities of ChatGPT, and we'll start with summarizing content. ChatGPT is very good at this. Let's say you typed in a prompt that looks like this, and you initiated the appropriate commands to have ChatGPT respond, and ChatGPT would respond with something like this. Pretty straightforward, no problem. But for sake of illustration and discussion, let's say you're not really satisfied with that particular response. It's too long. Issue another prompt. You're treating ChatGPT as if it is a person. You write this prompt, and it will give you a response something like this. Much simpler. In fact, you can go the other direction too. You can start with a simple sentence, and through embellishment and engineering your prompt, you can have a much more complex output. Another capability that ChatGPT has that you might use as a technical writer, extraction. ChatGPT is particularly good at this. Now let me show you a prompt first. What this prompt refers to is the paragraph that I'm going to display in just a minute. This paragraph is from an article that I wrote a couple of years ago about the neutron generator. In summary, it's a component for an oil field tool. So I have instructed ChatGPT to read this text. Now, you don't have to read the whole thing word for word, but you can see it's a nice wall of words. But I wanted certain things from it. I wanted 3 electrical or electronic requirements to operate this generator. So after typing in the prompt and the text that you see there, ChatGPT, within a second or two, gave me this response. It did exactly what I asked it to. In fact, it did something I did not ask it to. It numbered the responses. So ChatGPT is a very good tool if you want data extracted. And this is just one example of what you can do with it. Another type of activity you might pursue or use with ChatGPT 4 in particular, changing the reading levels. Let's say, for example, that you needed information about a certain project. How about this? I entered this into ChatGPT, and it gave me this response. Terminology, words, sentence structure that a college senior would probably understand, no problem. But for sake of illustration and discussion, let's say that's really not what you want. That's too high of a level. So issue another prompt like this. I did so, and ChatGPT 4 gave me this. It can change the reading levels, not just of a sentence, but large passages also. In fact, it can go the other way around. You can start with a lower grade reading level, and then through your prompts, instruct ChatGPT to increase the difficulty to a higher reading level. The important thing that I want you to remember at this point is you improve your prompts by adding detail. Let's take another prompt and see where it leads us. Very simple, straightforward, stages in the life of a butterfly. ChatGPT gave me this response. Okay, but now let's say that's okay, but I want more detail about that. In fact, I've got a particular situation where I want to use it. And for sake of a discussion, let's say this. So you've told ChatGPT to give a response directed for a teacher for 5th grade students and specific information about what you want. And ChatGPT gave me this answer when I typed in the prompt. The important thing is here you engineer the prompt to obtain the response that you want. Now, I want to take just a minute to focus in on this particular prompt and its response, because there's some things that are important here. Once again, there's the prompt for the teacher, 5th grade, 12 words, etc. Here is the ultimate instruction. This is what you want. However, you gave ChatGPT what's called context. Here's one typical example of what you might say. You'd want ChatGPT to look at it as a teacher would for 5th grade students. In addition, I tacked on this to make the response a little more specific, and ChatGPT did exactly that. Okay, so then what we're talking about here now is massaging the results by repetitive, if necessary, repetitive prompting, which is called iteration. Now, let's say you're looking at that prompt again, and there's the response, and you say to yourself, well, it's a good start, but 5th graders might not know what the meaning of chrysalis is. So you're instructing ChatGPT to insert a brief explanation in the stage 3, and it does so. The technique I'm recommending here is you submit a prompt, you evaluate the tool's response, you refine the prompt again, and submit it. Look at the response and keep at it, keep at it, keep at it as long as you can, as long as you need to, rather, to get the response or the information you need. ChatGPT-4 for technical writers is also good, as I mentioned, at changing the output format. Let's take a look at the prompt again about the butterfly. This is what your prompt is. You want 4 stages. You want a table. You want the columns labeled such and such. You want descriptions. You want reading level for 10th grade. It's going to use the information it already has in your session, and it will produce something that looks like this. This took less than a second for ChatGPT to generate. So it remembers what you're writing if you're in the same session, and it will generate information or output it in different formats. One very interesting class that I took using ChatGPT was for producing PowerPoint outlines. And the instructor told us to generate a prompt about a simple PowerPoint presentation with the specifics that you want. So I came up with this. Very simple, 5 slides, specific topic. I want a certain number of words described for definitions of these 3 words or phrases. I want tasks given that can help tech writers, 10th grade reading level, outline, and it's got to be positive and encouraging. And after typing all this, I issued the appropriate commands, and ChatGPT, within half a second, came up with this. As you see, there are the slides. There's the titles that I requested. There are the key terms and the limited definitions, less than 12 words. There's the tasks that an AI can help a tech writer with. And the slide 4 and 5 contain information in the bullets that I did not instruct it to insert, but it wound up doing that as to be helpful and to provide information that I could possibly use. So ChatGPT can generate things in outline form for PowerPoint slides that would be very helpful. Earlier in my presentation, I mentioned that there's some problems, or challenges is a better word, with AI and the information produced, and that had to do with biased and unbiased prompts. Here is an example of a biased prompt. This person is clearly not too favorable about organic food. And I entered this into ChatGPT as an experiment, and ChatGPT gave me this. Not very objective. So the point here, as a technical writer, when you write your prompts, you need to be as objective and unbiased as possible. So I rewrote the prompt to something like this. Very objective. Give me 1 pro and 1 con. And the response? Straight to the point. Very objective. I wanted 1 pro and 1 con. It gave me 1 pro and 1 con. Then we've talked now about the different modules or components of AI. We've talked about the capabilities of ChatGPT-4, how tech writers can use some of these capabilities. But now let's move to the next major topic, and that is technical writing in the AI era. There's going to be some changes. In one of the classes that I attended, the instructor came up with what he thought were going to be the changes in the future for tech writers. This instructor felt that AI would handle these things. He called them routine tasks. And he also then went on to say that by having AI handle all this, this frees the technical writer to perform these types of tasks. He called them strategic. He also called them creative tasks. Now, whether this actually develops as such, only the future will tell, but it is worth pondering nonetheless. Another topic that this instructor mentioned was skill set change for technical writers. This instructor stated that a technical writer's skill set will change. Now, this is one instructor's opinion, but it's worth considering nonetheless. Certain items that the tech writer's skill set will be, obviously, thorough knowledge of AI and its components, not just oversight. You need to understand what basically is going on in AI, not just of ChatGPT, but other tools also. This instructor said it would be very helpful, in fact, crucial to be able to perform data analysis or learn how to perform some data analysis using AI. Content planning for documents, according to this instructor, would be very important to the technical writer and their skill set. User experience principles were also high on this instructor's list of skills that the tech writer would have to have. In fact, this instructor indicated that the title of technical writer might soon go obsolete. In fact, he predicted that the title of technical writer might change to these. In addition, this class and another class I attended said there's going to be some other changes in the tech writing era, AI era. Collaboration, more specifically, collaborating with SMEs. According to the instructor that I saw or heard, the instructor said right now, in general, the collaboration with an SME and a tech writer is linear. And basically, you've got an SME or SMEs who have the tech details and knowledge. The tech writer, as you see, interviews the SME, gets the information, and generally works somewhat independently to create a draft of a document. Now, here is one proposed workflow change that might come about with AI and technical writers. The tech writer collaborates with the SME again, but the tech writer uses an AI tool to produce an outline of the document. Then the tech writer collaborates with the SME, both of whom are using the AI tool, usually at the same time. And according to this proposed workflow, the next step will be a tech writer using the AI tool to produce the draft and goes back to edit the draft with the SME, either with or without the AI tool. And then the tech writer finally finishes up the draft. Now, whether this is the proposed workflow that comes about, only the future will tell, but it is worth considering nonetheless. Okay, so you as a technical writer, what are you going to do about this era, this AI era? Well, I would suggest you develop what I call an involvement plan. And starting with, learn as much as you can about AI, such as from articles, websites, and blogs. There's plenty of information out there on the web and on these blogs. I would also highly recommend courses. I'll go into this in a little bit later, just a moment in the next slide, but take as many courses on AI as you can. Practice, practice, practice with AI tools, not just ChatGPT 4, but Wall-E, which is an image generator, Google Gemini, which is another LLM. All these other ones, practice as many as you can. Some are free, some cost minimal charge, but practice, 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 because what you want to do is to become very proficient in prompt engineering. And while you're working on that, I would suggest you consider how you can implement AI in your current job, your current career, or your different projects on which you're working. Because the ultimate goal is this. You want to be the expert in your office or your work, wherever you're doing. Now, that pretty well concludes the presentation, but I want to leave you with one slide with information. Here are some places you can go to get information about AI in general, generative AI, et cetera, et cetera. Some cost money, some are free, and I would encourage you to consider these And I've also indicated how you can access ChatGPT if you're unfamiliar with how to do that. By doing so, if it's the first time you access it, it'll require you to register, but it's free, and that'll be okay. Now, I'm going to leave this slide visible for right now, and I'll go ahead and stop my presentation, and we'll go take questions from you folks out there. So have we had any questions come in
Yes, we have.
already?
I've been keeping track and they're all really good questions. So let's jump in. The first question comes from, is it Beta? The question was on why hasn't AI been coded to say, I don't know? So, like, why does it generate misleading or false information if it doesn't know the answer to the question?
Well, without going into a lot of coding gender information, which I can't tell you about that. From what I've read and from what I've heard, it is tasked. These LLMs are tasked with giving an answer, and their software there is coded in such a way that they have to give an answer of something. And some are better than others. Some will give you honest answers, complete answers, accurate answers, much higher in a much higher percentage. But they're working on that. This is one thing that I have read that will improve over time. But it's like having their arm twisted behind their back, saying you've got to give an answer. You have to give an answer. Give your answer. So we'll see in the future that this probably will improve to far fewer incorrect answers.
Awesome. Thanks, Noel. Another question. Do we understand how AI is scaffolding information? So, how is it deciding which details to keep in a response for a fifth grade reading level versus college reading level?
That information is available, but it's beyond what I can give you at this time. I have not looked that deeply into it, but some of these classes that you see here from these institutions or organizations do have that information and can answer that question for you.
Awesome. I do want to add a little bit onto that question. I read where the ChatGPT and other these models, they learn so much information and they take in, blogs and children's literature all the way up to high quality academic papers. And they
Mhm.
learn these patterns and they're getting really good at, even if they don't know, going back to the original question, if they don't know the answer, they will fill the gap with what's to be expected so they understand patterns.
Uh-huh.
That's
Yep.
also why when you read, AI generated text, you can kind of pick up the pattern. This is why Noel said practice with it because you'll start seeing the pattern and how it constructs these texts.
Correct. Correct. And when you go into, like, for example, ChatGPT, you have to register and it will store your session, the information from your session. So the next time you go into ChatGPT, over on the left column, you'll see something, the title of your last session, whatever it is, stages of the butterfly, for example. And you can access that and pick up where you left off and it will use the information from a previous session. In other words, you don't have to start from ground zero.
Yes. Not so much a question, but I did want to bring it up because Noel, I think you could offer some really good information here. Lisa had a comment about AI being trained on misleading information. What are your thoughts on that? Is it put trash in and get trash out, or what's your thinking on that?
Well, unfortunately, that is the case. Inaccurate information, biased information can be input into AI LLMs. Right now, it's up to the honesty of the company or corporation who owns the AI. There is no governing body, as far as I know, that can guarantee or enforce accurate information going into the LLM. Right now, we can only hope that they put in accurate, unbiased information. That's why, as a tech writer, when you get your responses from your LLM activity, you need to look at it. If necessary, do some research to find out if A plus B does really equal C, or maybe it equals D. And when you find out in your research, you've got to keep your eye over it and check it constantly.
Awesome. Any other questions? I didn't see any more in the chat. Oh, I wonder if AI will eventually be able to develop an immune system to misinformation. That would be interesting. And honestly, I think with how things are advancing, I'm sure there's going to be some sort of checks on the information that's being put in and the output, right?
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
I also think that Erica, you brought up a good point with there being an uncertainty value in terms of if you don't know, right? If you don't know the answers to the question, instead of providing misinformation, either, say you don't know, or if you do, again, it will fill in the gap just due to priorities for complete information.
Mhm.
Then having some sort of 82% of this is factual and, the rest was filled in
Mhm.
based on patterns or something like that.
Mhm.
Um, just something to think about.
Right.
Any additional questions?
Now, there's only one other thing that we have not mentioned, and I hesitated in a way to mention it, but we're not talking about the elephant that's in the room, and that is job loss due to AI. Based on the information that I have read in books and some books and the classes that I have taken, the instructors and the authors feel that their opinion is that in general, writers will not be laid off en masse. There will be some restrictions of workers, yes, but most of them will be moved to tasks that are higher level. Instead of doing the monotonous minutiae, that type of thing, they'll be now tasked to be given responsibility for document development, prediction, that type of thing, at higher level types of things like we saw on that one slide. And we can, only the future will tell, but we certainly can hope that that's how it's going to be.
Good point. Good point. Erica had a
Um,
question. Yes.
if you don't mind, since I think it would be better if I ask this rather than type it, because so if you train AI on, say, a product that has changed the terms, that has changed the names of the terms, can AI recognize that the terms are the same and recognize that the old information was changed to the new one, or is that too advanced for it?
Good question. Without being doing research, and my initial response would be it probably could, if the algorithms that it has will enable it to do so. The key is the algorithms, the sophisticated software that is programmed. If it's programmed to recognize just what you're discussing, it'll find it. It'll detect it.
I also want to add something there. So, Eric, are you saying is the AI able to detect changes just automatically if something changed with like the source of something?
Well, our company was playing with ChatGPT for a bit, and he fed it all of our documentation. So we know it was correct, but some products had changed names and some of the items had changed terms,
Mm-hmm.
sessions to tiles, etc. And I never could, yeah, this was a year or two back. And I wasn't ever sure if ChatGPT could, as it ran through and used that source, determine that it was older and the name had changed, or if it would regard it as an entirely separate thing. I'm not sure if it understood the
Some of
link.
there are levels of ChatGPT. ChatGPT 4 is the free version, which is not as capable as some of the other versions that are out. But those you have to pay for. My guess would be the more powerful versions would probably detect what you're talking about. But we'd have to do experimenting on that. That'd be very interesting to find out.
I mean, let's face it, we've all worked on those types of products. We probably could just go through our backlog of material and find stuff to use to train it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Awesome. I have one more question out of curiosity. Noel, was the AI instructor who predicted technical writing will be called something new also a technical writer, or were they a subject matter expert?
This gentleman was I would say he was at one time a tech writer, but now he's expanded beyond that. He's involved with system development, network activity, that type of thing. And he's from India, for what it's worth. So it's a very interesting thing to look at. Some of the people who write the books that I've read, the people who gave the presentations are very optimistic, very pro, encouraging, that type of thing. And my hope is that it's really how it's going to be. But only the future will tell.
Good answer. All right. Any remaining questions? And feel free to come off of mute if you'd like to ask your question.
I have one. Hi, this is Lisa. Thinking about the revised technical writing workflow that you talked about, where I think it was technical writer collaborates with the SME and then produces an outline. Is the assumption that AI would be safe to use because the SME, by definition, being a subject matter expert, would be feeding it accurate information that was trustworthy?
That's partly it, yes. That's one thing that could be done, yes, that the SME would be the arbiter of the information, I guess.
Because a lot of technical writing is about, for example, proprietary software, and
Yes.
you can't go out and get information about it on the internet. The information is going to be new. So that's kind of what I was thinking about.
Yes, yeah, that brings up some very interesting points, because companies then will have to, just speculating here, larger companies will have to develop their own AI or their own LLMs to keep the information from getting out into the wide world, which is what theoretically it can do now. If you went to ChatGPT and entered some proprietary information, ChatGPT would store it and possibly use it in the future for somebody else's request.
Also, just for anyone that hasn't seen the email from LinkedIn, LinkedIn turned on by default that it can train on our information. So if you're comfortable with that, leave it on. And if you're not, you might want to turn it off.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. That's correct.
Really
Hopefully there will be
interesting.
that choice in a lot of instances. I hope that continues.
Yeah, no, I agree. Having like consent for having your data kind of scrubbed and used to like improve their GPT. Definitely seeing more ethical uses of AI and hoping to see that more in the future as it advances.